They hurt you. You call them out. They apologize, sometimes sincerely, sometimes not. You forgive, and then they do it again. The same behavior, the same harm, the same apology, and you forgive again, and again, and again, until you've forgiven the same offense so many times you don't even bother being angry anymore. You're just resigned. Here's what psychology reveals. Some people aren't toxic because they're bad, they're toxic because they're unwilling to change. And we keep forgiving them because we confuse forgiveness with reconciliation, confuse compassion with condoning, and confuse love with accepting harm. Here are 5 types of people who are toxic, but you keep forgiving first. The chronic apologizer. They apologize constantly, dramatically, sincerely, and nothing changes. The apologies are sometimes more elaborate than the harm. They cry, they grovel, they promise change. And then they do the exact same thing. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner's research on apologies shows that real apologies require change behavior. Apologies without behavior change are just performance. Here's the trap. You forgive because the apology seems sincere. You want to believe they're sorry. You want to believe they'll change. But research by Dr. John Gottman shows that apologies are only meaningful if followed by different behavior. Dr. Sue Johnson's work on attachment shows that people often keep forgiving repeated offenses because they're hoping this time will be different, even though there's no evidence it will be. What happens psychologically? You confuse an apology with actual change. Their tears become more important than your pain. Their remorse becomes the point rather than their behavior. And because they apologize, you feel obligated to forgive second. I'm just like this person. They hurt you and justify it with their personality, their trauma, their ADHD, their anxiety, as if these are reasons rather than explanations. I'm just not good at boundaries. I'm just anxious, so I lash out. I'm just bad at emotions. I'm just not a good friend. I'm just selfish. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner identifies this as using diagnosis as excuse, conflating explanation with justification. Here's the distinction. An explanation is understanding why they acted that way. A justification is using the explanation as a reason you should accept the behavior. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's trauma research shows that while understanding someone's history is important, it doesn't obligate you to accept harm. Understanding why they're defensive doesn't mean you have to accept defensiveness. Third, the selective apologizer. They apologize for some things, but not others. They apologize when you're upset, but not when they've caused deep harm. They apologize for small mistakes, but not for patterns of behavior. They apologize when it affects them, but not when it affects you. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner's research on apologies shows that selective apologies reveal what people actually value. They apologize for things they believe were wrong, not for things that harmed you. Here's what reveals. They apologize for being late, but not for being dismissive. They apologize for snapping, but not for the weeks of coldness. They apologize for forgetting plans, but not for frequently forgetting plans. They apologize for one incident, but not for pattern. Research shows that selective apologies reveal selective remorse. They're sorry they did something, not sorry they hurt you. What happens psychologically? You interpret selective apologies as partial accountability. You think, at least they apologize for something, even though they're avoiding the real harm. Dr. John Gottman's research on relationships shows that selective apologies actually damage relationships more than no apologies because they create confusion about what matters. It seems like small things matter and big things don't forth. You're the problem person. They hurt you, you point out, and instead of accepting responsibility, they explain why you're the problem for being hurt. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You're taking this wrong. You brought this on yourself. Psychologist Dr. George Simon's research on manipulation shows that blame shifting is one of the most common ways toxic people avoid accountability. Here's the pattern. Someone hurts you, you object, they defend, they attack your reaction instead of addressing their behavior. You end up defending your right to be hurt instead of them addressing their action. Dr. Harriet Lerner's research shows that blame shifting prevents genuine apologies because the person never actually acknowledges wrongdoing. What happens? You're in a conversation about their behavior, and it becomes a conversation about your reaction. You're trying to explain you were hurt, and you're explaining why you shouldn't have been hurt. Fifth, the repeat offender with no consequences. They keep doing the thing that hurts you. They've been asked to stop. You've cried about it. You've explained how it makes you feel. And they keep doing it anyway. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner's research shows that repeated behavior after being asked to stop is a form of contempt. The person is communicating that your needs don't matter enough to change. Here's what's clear. If someone knows the behavior hurts you and keeps doing it anyway, they're choosing to keep hurting you. Research by Dr. Sue Johnson shows that this pattern, being asked to stop and refusing, reveals the person's priorities. They value the behavior more than your comfort. They value maintaining the behavior more than respecting you. What happens psychologically? You keep forgiving because you keep hoping they'll change. But there's been no consequence to their repeated behavior, so there's no incentive for change. Dr. Robert Cialdini's behavioral research shows that behavior persists when it's rewarded, you forgive, so they face no consequence, and extinguishes when it's not rewarded. You'd have to hold a boundary, not forgive. So if you're forgiving the same person repeatedly for the same harm, know this. Forgiveness without change isn't compassion. It's enabling. And holding them accountable, really accountable with consequences, is sometimes the kindest thing you can do, not for them to hurt you again with better apologies, but so they might actually change, or so you might finally leave. Either way, you deserve better.